I recently did a blog on this, and I believe I provided the link to that in the chat box. But I thought I would just do a quick presentation on this with you all today. Interesting. About 10 years ago, we started talking how useful media was going for marketing for small growers, small producers, small business in general, and how beneficial it could be in terms of being relatively inexpensive to use, but still have a wide reach. And so this is just, I guess, another benefit that we're now seeing with use of social media, which is to use polls to get to understand what our customers are looking for in terms of, the types of products they're looking for, delivery options. I mean, you can pretty much, ask anything. But today, I'm going to talk about when polls might be used over other options like surveys and comment cards and things like that. When they are not necessarily the best option, talk about the various social media platforms that offer polls. Most of them do. I'll focus on the primary ones, some question formats, and then some suggestions. Okay. So social media polls can be great to really gather data and feedback from customers or potential customers. If you're starting a new business or bringing out a new product, to really update things that you're doing in terms of delivery, opening hours, products, those types of things, because they are extremely timely, and it's so easy to get quick feedback from input. Once you post the poll to say Instagram or Facebook, when those results start coming in automatically. And we'll talk about expanding the reach of those polls to get more responses and feedback later. But they really do provide a way to kind of get instant input. And they're even being used by large companies like M&M Corporation and Gillette. And they're just really popular right now to get, kind of basic info. Also, I've seen them used a lot to look at like what specific attributes or characteristics of products, like do you like red M&Ms or green M&Ms, or are you looking for a certain type of lettuce or a certain spiciness on your arugula, these types of things. And then they're also obviously optimal if you have a small market research or no market research budget, because they're essentially free. If the business has any social media accounts, I mean, the polls can be posted at any time and there's no charge for that. Social media polls are not the best or shouldn't probably be used if you're trying to get detailed customer feedback over a course of a long time period. They just have basically 1 or 2 question options, so it's hard to get a lot of details. And of course, it's kind of a one-off thing. So if you wanted to see how people change their preferences or wanted something different over the course of time, something else should be used, such as a survey or comment cards and those types of things. Also, if your target audience, doesn't use social media, obviously these tools are not going to work. And there's a lot of people, a lot of different education and age ranges are on social media now. Some of the platforms are better suited for certain demographics, and I'll talk about that in a minute. If you want to get very unique insights and input, sometimes social media polls aren't the best, just because there's kind of this herd mentality that people might choose things or see other people's opinions, and that might reflect what they choose, as an example. And then if you need a lot of data on your respondents, like all kinds of demographic data or all kinds of other data. I know when I do surveys for market research, we have anywhere from like 28 to 40 questions that we ask, because we're looking for lots of data on a particular respondent. And obviously social media polls don't do that well, because there's only 1 or 2 questions. And so online surveys like through Qualtrics or SurveyMonkey would be best in these situations. Okay. So the top 4 social media platforms where we see market research are Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. These are also the most commonly used ones for personal and work types of information gathering and communication. Each of them kind of differs in its user types. I know most of us have probably at least 2 of these we use, and maybe for different purposes, but they do tend to target different audiences and demographics and things like that. And so Depending on your product and who you're normally working with in your business, one might be better than the other. For example, Instagram is really popular with the younger Generation Z and the millennials. Facebook has kind of an older Gen X and baby boomer following. And then Twitter, you kind of see across the board in demographics, but people primarily use it for professional work-based reasons. And it's also has a very, you know, you can only have, I think it's 240 characters now. So it's kind of a small bite size. So they're all different. They serve different purposes. So something to think about what choosing the platform you want to use for your polls. Okay, here's an example of an Instagram poll. Basically, Instagram uses stickers or pictures, if you will, where people can choose from two options. In this particular picture here, you can see that they're looking at donuts, plain versus sprinkles, and then the person would just basically on the screen put their thumb or their mouse and choose one. So again, it's just getting a quick feedback on you know, the types of donuts that people prefer. Do they want the extra icing and sprinkles, or do they want plain, you know? And this is one that was done by a fairly large company. Also, they tend to be more aesthetically pleasing because they use pictures and graphics. And then companies are using these to help make decisions on how to develop products in the future and what to have them on. And so we see that in Instagram. Again, Instagram is primarily used, you know, by Gen Z millennials, a little bit by Gen X, but again, it's not as popular with, say, people 50 and older. Twitter polls, they're really easy to create, and you have 4 options here. You can see in this example, when do you see the most engagement on your social networks? And they had 4 options, and then people would pick one, and then you can see the results come back instantaneously. So they're very easy for people to take. They can just click on them or scroll over them. Because of Twitter's restrictions on the amount of characters, they need to have very little text, but also be eye-catching. And so this is an example of a Twitter poll. Again, a lot of people tend to use Twitter for work-based rather than personal-based, so something to keep in mind. Here are some more examples. As you can see, M&M's was trying to look at different color preferences, and red came out to be the most popular here. Starbucks was also looking at different educational things they were going to do for people based upon home brewing, and they had 2 choices here, and one was obviously much preferred. So again, so easy to customize and put these together, and people from individuals to small companies to growers to large companies are using them. Facebook. Facebook offers the ability to basically have 3 choices. They're on, you'll see an example, which has also got pictures. And so Facebook allows you to kind of do both. The bottom one is one that I created, which was asking what day for a book club meeting. And so I could have done 3 options. I only did 2. So Facebook is very customizable. You can have images, you can have GIFs. They should be engaging. And Facebook is it's very highly effective because polls like these get the most engagement on Facebook as a whole. They should be relevant to the audience and stand out. And one thing you can do at Facebook is you can pay a $1 fee. It's usually $10 to boost a post to audience that you select in terms of demographics and location. And so you can really extend the reach of the poll and try and get more responses by paying to boost your post there. So that is one difference that Facebook has that the others do not. But Facebook is also very friend-centered, and people really only have access to see things that their friends do. And so it's a little bit harder, I think, to kind of access the general public. It's easier to do with Twitter, for example. But again, you know, they all have their benefits and negatives. One thing to know, though, is regardless of what the platform you use, depending on how a user has set up their preferences and security options, it is possible to actually get more information about someone who responds to one of your polls by looking at going back and seeing who responded and looking at their particular Facebook page or their Instagram account. And there's a lot of things you can find out very easily, such as their age, their gender, their education level, whether they have children, where they're located, marital status, hobbies and interests, political leanings. And so it is possible to get a more, I guess, complete data set, even with doing a 1 or 2 question poll, if you have the time to go back and look at this for all of the respondents. Just to be fair, here's my Facebook page, and if you just click on it, you can see quite a bit of information. Gender, where I live, where I've worked before, marriage, birth date, all that kind of thing. I've blocked out a couple things for personal reasons, but yeah, I mean, you can get a lot more data on your respondents just by going and looking at who responded and who they are. As far as questioning and what to be used, obviously, how you word things is very important, because if there's any type of bias in how the question is formulated, people might answer a certain way because they're reading into the question that you're asking. And for these types of simple polls, multiple choice like yes, no, or a rating scale 1 to 5 are really the best to use because they're simple and people can answer them easily. Obviously using visuals can really help, especially if you're looking at people's opinions on a new product or the characteristics of a product. And so pictures or GIFs are suggested. Also, I would consider making sure that they're not lengthy. Obviously, with Twitter and Facebook, you're looking at only 3 or 4 options for one question, but 1 question at a time is really best. So if you want to actually learn more information, it'd be best to do separate polls, maybe do 1 every day for a week and that type of thing. And you might even be able to track longitudinally if you get some of the same people answering those polls. And also if they know that the poll is short, they're more likely to answer. And also, obviously, spelling and grammar are very important. And the questions need to be easy to read, direct. So I would also highly suggest testing out the questions and answer choices with people in your organization, or with, if you have maybe people on your mailing list or current customers would be willing to take the poll first, just so you can see if it's really eliciting what you're trying to elicit with your poll. These are some common questions. And again, it really depends on your business and what your products are. And again, these are kind of directed at people who have purchased before, which is a great way to learn about what they like about your products, would they continue to buy from you, what else would they like to see. You can learn a lot from your existing customers. I will say that I think that social media polls are used a lot to examine the preferences of people who are not current customers, because they tend to go out into society at large. But anyway, here's just some suggestions. I'm not going to read through all of these, but they will be in the posted PowerPoints after today's webinar. The other thing is, obviously, the amount of people responding is important. And so it's important to try and encourage participation, whether it be through graphics, through using Facebook paying to have your poll sent out to more people. And so some tips to kind of encourage people are, maybe you could provide an incentive, such as entrance into a drawing or some kind of benefit or gift. We don't see that a ton, but there is some of that. What's really popular is showing the poll results right away, so people can see how others have voted. They can come back and look. People are really interested to see in the end, what the main characteristic people like better, or what, if it's a multiple choice question, what was most highly rated. And so also they know that the information will be used, and so their time in completing it was useful. And another thing is that if your social media pages are engaging and meaningful, and so people are coming back, they're more likely to take your poll because they like your site, they're a follower, they're interested in what you're doing. And so, so if you're actually maintaining good sites and posting often and you have a lot of followers, then they're more likely to take your poll. Just some ideas for those of you with Instexion. I work with a lot of produce growers in marketing, direct marketing, farmers market, CSAs, those types of things. I just have some suggestions here. Like, for instance, you could do a poll on the type of arugula people prefer. Do they like more the spicy or the non-spicy? What's your preferred day for your community supported ag box pickup? Okay, and you could have up to 4 days listed. With Twitter or Facebook, for example, or if you're considering adding, say a meat or egg share to your current CSA program, and you want to see which one people would buy, you could put a picture of both, and then people could just pick one. So for instance, on your Instagram account, you can just put up pictures, and they can just click one. If you want to know if they're trying to decide on which farmers markets to sell at, you could certainly do one. Which of the following 4 farmers markets do you attend the most? And you put the names of the markets in there, and then they can just click on the one that they go to. I know now we have a lot of growers in Utah selling a lot more online because of COVID. So you could definitely pull your Facebook, Instagram followers, and your clients, and just see would they be willing to buy more online if they've traditionally been buying in person, either through your stand or at the farmers market. So those are just some examples. These are very simple, of course. I'm more than happy if you contact me to give you some ideas for your specific situation, or how to word the questions and maybe which platform to use. I'm more than happy to work with you on that. These are a number of resources for social media polls. Again, question suggestions, platform suggestions, how to get the most out of the data, that type of thing. And they're pretty consistent in their message, and so that's good. But a lot of choices out there. Finally, as I mentioned, I posted a blog on this topic last week. And so you can find that Marketing in Motion blog at this website, and that is in the chat.